So when we think about empathy, we're really talking about three types of need. Explicit needs that people can tell you about, their attitudes and opinions. If I ask you what your favorite ice cream is, you can pretty easily tell me, oh yeah, mint chocolate chip, or I really love pralines and cream. That's something that you can immediately identify and share with me and articulate how you feel about it. That works really well with a product or service that's already existing because I've already had an experience with it. It doesn't work as well when you're doing innovation and you're talking about bringing a new product or service or system to the marketplace. People don't really have something they can draw from in their past experience that they could immediately identify as, how they evaluate a product, service, or system. That said, we've also learned from doing behavioral research that people aren't always able to express how they truly feel about something. So that leads us into two other types of need. Tacit needs are those things you can't really immediately articulate. These are things that are implied or inferred without direct communication. With your family members, friends, other people that you know really well, they can give you a look or have an expression on their face that you immediately can read, like, oh, they're frustrated. Oh, they're feeling conflicted. And they may not immediately be able to say, I'm conflicted because of these things. They're very intuitively responding to a situation, and those types of expressions and gestures are coming up as part of that. These are very similar. A great example of this are sort of poker tells. People that blink when they're bluffing, or people that tap their finger when they know they have a good hand. These are things that you sort of subconsciously do. Someone else can point out to you and say, hey, do you know every time you're upset you do this thing, and you're like, oh my God, you're right, I do this thing. But they're not things that if I asked you about it and you hadn't really reflected or someone hadn't shared it with you, you might not even know that you're doing it. And then the deepest level of need are latent needs. Those are things that if I asked you about it, you would have absolutely no clue you were even doing it. These needs, people aren't aware of them, they're not able to articulate them, and frequently, if it is a pain point, they've created some wonderful workaround that they don't even realize that there's an issue with either the product or service that they're using. A great example of that is some work that I was doing a number of years ago with a office furniture manufacturer, and we were looking at the use of the task chair. So we showed up to do some research at an office, to ask them if we could do some observations about how people use task chairs. And they said, oh yeah, come on in. And guess what? We just did a survey, and people at the company, 97% of them are extremely satisfied with their new chairs. So we started our observation, and we go down a couple of different aisles between these big cubicles. We realized that a number of people had backrests on their chairs, like almost the whole row, and then they had footrests. So we started observing a bit more of what people are doing, and we realized that what they've done is they've cranked their chairs all the way up to the highest position. And then what happens at that point is it starts to throw their back out, so they put a cushion there, and then their feet are dangling, so they had to go out and buy a footrest. So yes, they were all quite satisfied with their chairs because they completely redesigned the whole experience and made it satisfactory. And so that is the difference, a really clear difference between explicit information that people give you, like, yes, I'm satisfied with my chair, versus what I'm actually doing to be satisfied with my chair. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into the difference between the type of information that you get with explicit, tacit, and sort of latent understanding of needs. So let's talk a little bit more about explicit. We learn about explicit information from what people say. We learn about tacit information in what they think and feel. And that ends up being sort of a combination of what they tell us and then also what they do. And then the last domain is what we do. And that direct observation gives much greater insight into these latent needs. So anytime that you design a study for design thinking, you really need to make certain that you include this complete domain of the types of needs that people have in this context. Your assignment for this section is to complete an empathy map. This map will include what people think, what they say, what they feel, and what they do. Based on your project, determine someone that you need to observe and interview. If you're researching a work process, interview them at work. Definitely do this in context. And then after you've completed the observation and the interview, fill out this map. So what do they think about an experience that you've observed? What did they share with you directly? What did they say? What do they feel? So the expressions that you observed, any kind of emotional state that you observed should all be included in what they feel. And then what behaviors did you observe, and what activities and tasks are important? After that, talk about any pains, issues, areas of discomfort, any barriers or obstacles, dislikes, and gains. What motivators, delights, drivers, and likes did you observe? So fill out this empathy map and post it to the website.